Caracas is enjoying a placid, rainy Friday afternoon. Traffic jams on the streets are normal, shopping malls are full of customers, and there is really no mention of war at all until you arrive to social media, where psychological war pushes to extremes. While Donald Trump has promised there will be no airstrikes against Venezuela, everyone else is counting United States ships and locations, while yesterday United States ship Gravely has departed out of Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, leaving Kamla without Dragon gas deal and without Caricom. President Nicolás Maduro, however, is cautious and he is requesting further military assistance from China, Iran, and Russia. All Russian high-level politicians are fully supporting Venezuelan defense, including Maria Zakharova, Sergei Lavrov, Peskov, Putin, and the Russian ambassador in Caracas. While the economic summit concluded with probable deals for further arms sales. Economic war, however, continues, devaluing Venezuelan currency, which is already at 223 bolivars per United States dollar, as economic war is perhaps more difficult to win than military war. Trinidad and Tobago United States air bases, however, are ordering their personnel to report tonight, while the airspace around Ponce, Puerto Rico, will remain closed during the next following months. Donald Trump's meeting with President Xi of China does not seem to have gone well, as Xi body language expressed disgust, while minor concessions on tariffs and rare earth exports were agreed upon. Polymarket only provides a 24% chance that Nicolás Maduro will be ousted, although the possibility of military strikes against Venezuela are significantly higher. Venezuelan missiles are comfortably waiting for United States ship Gerald Ford to arrive from the Mediterranean or Atlantic Ocean, as its slow, clumsy motion still needs a few extra days of voyage. Venezuelan asymmetric warfare strategies might target aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford if it approaches too much. Psychological warfare, highly entrenched in social media, tries to portray an inevitability of regime change in the hope that Venezuela will strike first, but Venezuela has absolutely no need to strike first, as we believe in a peaceful Caribbean zone of peace that must be maintained. However, it is clear that the Caribbean community, once Trinidad and Tobago pulls out, will need the inclusion of Venezuela and Colombia with the rest of Caribbean islands, and we should be able to design a new peace through strength strategy with common defense against United States' constant attempts to aggression against our wonderland and wonder sea. If USS Gerald Ford is attained by Venezuelan missiles following a prior United States attack onto somewhere in Venezuela, that would entail a suicidal land operation of United States forces in Venezuela, which would be messy, long, and plentiful of American casualties, which would be unfortunate because, as already stated, Venezuela is enjoying in this rainy afternoon a placid, peaceful, traffic jam city, as it always happens when it rains. Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla is in a terrible mood. She decided to turn off comments on her ex social media account. During the last few weeks, I used to comment on her posts as I was hoping some dragon gas deal to be made before I knew that she has already succumbed to forces of warfare and evil. Everybody else, of course, has been critical of her performance, and now she is complaining that she has no business as a persona non grata in traveling to Venezuela, as we have a horrible dictatorship. So it is unclear why she was so desperate in getting the dragon gas deal signed by such horrible dictatorship if she didn't like it. Why would she do business with people she doesn't like? Hard times are expected for Trinidad and Tobago citizens, as their government has become the clown show of Caricom, and no suitable trade partners arise, considering that Kamla recently avoided traveling to Africa. It is unclear how would she manage to export all production from Trinidad and Tobago to the United States, as she would be dealing with a country that imposes tariffs on imports. Yesterday, I was interviewed by the Afro-Grenadian on his YouTube channel, and he was telling me that in Grenada, they might have to look for alternative sources of industrial products from suppliers different than Trinidad and Tobago, considering that Caricom might soon be removed of the obligation of taking care of Trinidad and Tobago, which tends to disagree with everything else proposed by Caricom. Perhaps this will be a good opportunity for Venezuela to provide to Grenada and other Caribbean islands some of our industrial and agricultural production, which, contrary to propaganda reports, is improving. Venezuela a few years ago had shortages of every single product, and nowadays our shelves are full of everything, mostly domestic products, which might soon be exported. Russia, Iran, and China will urgently arrive militarily into defense of Venezuela, as we expect Donald Trump to change his mind again and decide to strike. And this urgent renewed relationship with China, Iran, and Russia will accelerate Venezuela's incursion into foreign markets away from the Americas, with terms of trade not necessarily tied to either OFAC or the United States dollar. It is significant, however, to be on notice that airspace near Ponce, Puerto Rico will be closed for civilian air traffic during the next 6 months, as Venezuela can expect military tensions for a very long time, pending resolution of conflicts in other parts of the world, like Ukraine, where the city of Pokrovsk in the Donetsk is sieged by Russian forces, where 10,000 Ukrainian military are hidden in civilian apartments they do not wish to surrender, and whose fate is uncertain as hours and days go by. The Russian embassy in Caracas has advertised Poseidon missile, state-of-the-art Russian military industry, which might be able to strike either USS Gerald Ford or objectives within the continental United States, as it might have been deployed in Cuba rather than Venezuela. United States propaganda tends to over-inform, while Chinese, Russian, and Iranian sources tend to hide more information, which means that Venezuela is probably well equipped with a lot of weapons that have not even been disclosed yet. While we continue reading reports of unenviable position of United States shipbuilding industry, which represents 0.1% of total warship production worldwide, in contrast to China, which produces 50% of the ships worldwide in 2025. As time goes by, United States military predominance dwindles, while combined military predominance of Russia, India, and China, allies of Venezuela, increases. United States warmongering is unfortunate. Venezuela wishes to show this planet that peace should be the guideline for international relations, as approved by the Human Rights Council of United Nations, whose main chief declared today that shooting down civilians on speedboats in the Caribbean and Pacific is unacceptable. Most shootings, by the way, are in the Pacific Ocean, which makes us think that maybe some of the ships that were previously in the Caribbean have actually moved to the Pacific Ocean. While psychological warfare seems at an all-time high, it is unsustainable, as there is a small window of a few days between now and the arrival of USS Gerald Ford into the Caribbean. It sounds like United States should already have struck Venezuela, but it hasn't done so. And Donald Trump clearly stated that he's not planning to strike either. If such is the case, what is United States ship Gerald Ford going to do when it arrives to the Caribbean? It sounds like they are desperate for Venezuelans to shoot first. And again, we are in such peaceful environment so far that there is absolutely no need to shoot whatsoever. However, people who are feeding the psychological war need some sort of shooting to occur. While deterrence is so formidable that escalation could become unavoidable if the United States dares to attack anywhere within Venezuelan territory. With the resources we already have at hand, a cargo plane with Russian and Iranian equipment arrived to Simon Bolivar International Airport a few days ago, and Venezuela is expecting massive China, Iranian, and Russian new weapons to arrive immediately per request of President Nicolás Maduro, with payment terms convenient for those advanced military economies, as Venezuela has plenty of petroleum and gas underground, supporting any new military debt we incur. Venezuelans can be calm, knowing that in the worst case scenario, we might endure a multi-year war that we will eventually win, because time always plays in favor of defenders. United States has no business in Venezuela. Petroleum resources of Venezuela will not be provided to the United States. Donald Trump was already offered a preferential package for business with Venezuela, which he already declined, and now he has been forced to engage in war, but he seems afraid to strike. While United States public opinion is becoming annoyed of psychological warfare, regime change by coercion from the United States, as clearly defined in United Nations Charter, is unacceptable, and Venezuela will fight for defending United Nations Charter. United States used to believe that other countries would be submissive according to rules invented by the United States, which is not the case under international law. Venezuela prefers to leave petroleum and gas resources untouched until we get favorable terms of trade with partners from Caribbean islands, different to Trinidad and Tobago, and Eurasian powers. While Latin American countries seem to be discreetly distancing themselves from the United States, as none of them have offered any troops for accompanying United States into invasion of Venezuela. While United States generals and admirals continue withdrawing from the armed forces, as Pete Hegseth has demonstrated to be a deficient Secretary of Defense. No further foreign trips are scheduled for Donald Trump to gain some air, and domestic situation in the United States, with another month of shutdown and domestic protests, will pressure Donald Trump to concede horrible performance in a Venezuela issue created by Marco Rubio as a lost cause. President Nicolás Maduro has the opportunity of becoming an anti-imperialism hero for the international community, which will contrast with negative propaganda that has been proposed by regime change supporters during the last few years. Arrogance is hard to cure. A humiliating military defeat for the United States is expected if the United States decides to strike. It is unclear which excuse will they use to strike, as counter-drug traffic is no longer advertised as the cause of this military deployment, while 57 civilians have already been extrajudicially killed in both Pacific and Caribbean, and most of their nationalities seem to be Peruvian, Ecuadorian, Colombian, Mexican, Trinidadian, and virtually no Venezuelans, reaffirming United Nations report of 2025 that Venezuela is not a significant contributor for the international drug trade. United States wishes to loot Venezuelan petroleum and gas, and Venezuela will only deal with companies that respect our sovereignty, especially after the humiliating performance of Kamla Persad Bisesar, who thought that counting with an OFAC license was sufficient grounds to steal Venezuelan gas. Anyone who wishes to acquire Venezuelan oil and gas will have to pay for our resources. While military cooperation between China, Russia, Iran, and Venezuela, at a second stage, will concentrate on dismantling once and for all the necessity of counting with OFAC permission for international trade needed by economies who would only like to bypass United States for securing growth in favor of our peoples, while Caribbean will remain a zone of peace as requested by Caricom and CELAC.